Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
Hey folks, welcome into NFL Daily here on this Wednesday evening. Cam Rogers coming at you alongside Mitchell Renz. It's time for our way too early NFL Power Rankings, our first set of the offseason, Mitchell.
Never too early, Cam. I mean, it's never too early to start talking about the NFL again. I mean, yeah, the season's been over for what now? A few days? Man, let's get into it. I can't wait.
We're going to preface this discussion with the fact that, Mitchell, we are not projecting too far in our power rankings. We're not going to assume that the Denver Broncos, for example, are going to get Kirk Cousins or anything like that. So some things we do have to assume, other things we can't assume too far down the road. But without any further ado, let's get into it right here, right now, folks, here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. Number 32 in our way too early NFL power rankings, the Cleveland Browns. No shock here, Mitchell, 0-16 campaign. Hugh Jackson remaining as the head coach here. A young defense that's going to get better. You see some of the notable free agents there at the bottom of your screen, and some of the team needs as well. Could perhaps go out and grab a Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen with the number 1 overall pick, perhaps even Saquon Barkley at number 4, thanks to the Houston Texans here, Mitchell.
Yeah, and I mean, again, when you see a team that goes 0-16, I mean, it's the first time we've seen that since the 2008 Lions, 1-31 the last 2 years. This team, though, I think is an underrated defense. However, they need to get the offense back on track. This was a team that led the NFL in turnovers and interceptions. They need to get a quarterback, shocker there, but they need to invest potentially maybe in a quarterback early, but Cam, I'm not a huge Sam Darnold believer. I hope they don't take him first overall, but getting a guy like Saquon Barkley, you could argue is the most talented player in the draft, I think could only help a team like the Browns.
And you see corner and safety as well, a couple of team needs there for the Cleveland Browns. A lot of salary cap space too, Mitchell. So a lot of draft capital, a lot of salary cap space, so the Cleveland Browns could certainly get to a 5-win total for next year.
Well, I don't think they can do any worse.
Absolutely, at 0-16, no doubt about it. So the Cleveland Browns check in at number 32 in our first NFL Power Rankings of the offseason. Let's take a look at number 31 now. The New York Football Giants. A lot of turnover last season. A lot of wide receivers went down, most notably Odell Beckham Jr. and Brandon Marshall. Ben McAdoo fired. Insert Pat Shurmur as the new head coach.
I like Pat Shurmur a lot. I mean, we saw what he did with the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, again, this was a team that they went through 3 quarterbacks, and now if Eli Manning comes back and can play the way that I think he should be able to play with wide receivers that are capable. I mean, I'm a big fan of Sterling Shepard. Brandon Marshall, I don't know if he's going to be back. Odell Beckham, you could argue, is one of the best wide receivers in the league, but this offensive line needs to play better. I would be interested to see if they bring back Justin Pugh. I think he's going to be one of the top blockers this offseason.
Got injured last year, too.
Yeah, but he was also, I think, trying to do too much for this offensive line. He was going back and forth, but man, this team has a lot of needs, but they're getting rid of the bad apple and Eli Apple, so maybe that defense can get back to being stout like we saw the year before.
I expect the New York Giants to perhaps address the offensive line during free agency. Maybe they try and free up some cap space and grab an Andrew Norwell if indeed Justin Pugh walks, and Weston Richburg, very important guy there at the center position as well. Both of those players, as you see, free agents along with Orleans Darkwa. So the Giants are at number 31 with their new head coach in our first NFL Power Rankings this offseason. Let's take a look at number 30 now. We'll stay with the New York theme, if you will. The Jets here at number 30. Look, we know Josh McCown isn't the long-term guy. We know Christian Hackerberg probably isn't the guy, nor is Bryce Petty. So you sit here, you got that number 1 need for the Jets, Mitchell, unsurprisingly, quarterback.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of a Jets fan. I would love to see them take Baker Mayfield. I mean, he's probably my top quarterback, but here's the team. Again, the quarterback needs are heavy. Robbie Anderson was probably their best, I'll say, offensive threat this past year. He's going on. He's got some off-field issues. I don't know what his game plan is going to be going forward. Josh McCown had a pretty stellar year, but again, this is a guy who he keeps getting injured. Cam, MetLife Stadium has got to be a very, very bleak place to hold both of these teams for the future.
Exactly. They're in the 30s in our power rankings, Mitchell. Probably not a good thing. So there are the Jets there at number 30. And by the way, 2017 record of 5-11. All things considered, not the worst thing in the world. A lot of people had them projected to win 0 or like 1 game.
Seriously, 0 or 1 game was a realistic projection, but this team came out and they played a lot better, and I tip my cap to Todd Bowles.
All right, so there are the Jets there at number 30. Let's take a look at number 29 now. The Indianapolis Colts, and the big storyline with them, Josh McDaniels jumping ship. He does not want to be a part of the Indianapolis Colts organization. He's remaining with the Patriots, and the Colts are back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I don't want to know what that drawing board even looks like. The question that I have, I want to know if Andrew Luck is healthy. So McDaniels is a big quarterback guy, and without Andrew Luck, you could argue that this Colts team might have the worst roster in the NFL. And then when you just look at the health of Andrew Luck, I mean, this was a guy who he didn't play a single game last year. And then the last time he played a full 16-game season was 2014, which was a stellar year, 40 touchdowns. But besides Andrew Luck, I don't know why you'd want to go there.
They have to address that offensive line. They have to address the inside linebacker position as well. Really the only good offensive lineman on that roster, Anthony Costanzo at left tackle and Ryan Kelly, who got hurt last year at the center position. The Indianapolis Colts check in at number 29. Ladies and gentlemen, this is NFL Daily. Cam Rogers alongside Mitchell Renz. We're talking about the Colts right now. And, of course, they need a new head coach. So we have the top 10 options out there for the Indianapolis Colts to look at for the head coaching position. Let's take a look at number 10 here, Mr. Bruce Arians, and he's a bit of a long shot here, Mitchell. Let's face it, he retired. He said he is not going to return to coaching, but everybody has a price, and minds can change.
Yeah, minds can change, but this would surprise me. I am a huge Bruce Arians fan, and going back to Indy would be pretty interesting, but this guy just retired. He might have been the oldest coach in the NFL this past year, so it doesn't totally surprise me, but this would be one of those, like, pinch me, am I dreaming? Is he really going back to the Colts? I don't think so.
So Bruce Arians is there at number 10. Let's get to number 9 here. David Shaw, head coach of the Stanford Cardinal. There you see his record, 73-21 in 7 years at Stanford. And oh, by the way, that Andrew Luck connection.
Oh, I love the little Andrew Luck connection. I mean, you have to throw it in here. But this is also a guy who has NFL experience. Raiders, Eagles, Ravens, your Ravens. He also coached for the Chargers for a season. But he's an offensive-minded guy who I think would mesh pretty well with Andrew Luck in that offense. This Colts team is going to click. They need an offensive-minded guy because ultimately the team's going to run through Luck.
And as we go through these rankings here, folks, the more likely candidates are going to be in the 3 and 2 and 1 range, not necessarily here. David Shaw doing a pretty good job at Stanford in his own right. Let's get to number 8 here. This guy a long shot as well, you would presume. Jim Harbaugh, head coach of the Michigan Wolverines.
I think any candidates or any job opening or vacancy, you see Jim Harbaugh's name. And it's because this is a guy who's very well respected in the coaching realm. He's amazing with quarterbacks, but again, long shot. I think he's staying with the blue. I mean, I think that's what our insider would say.
Absolutely. James Yoder, the Michigan football insider. There's Jim Harbaugh at number 8. Let's take a look at number 7 now. Matt Rule, head coach of Baylor, a well-respected coach, was tied to the Giants' vacancy earlier this season as well. Coming off a not-so-great year with Baylor, but again, a guy that is held in high regards among coaching circles.
Yeah, don't let the 1-11 record totally fool you. I mean, this was a guy who took over the Temple Owls, a team that was abysmal. I mean, they were 2-10 in this first year, and then 2 years later, he went on to win the conference for the Temple Owls 2 straight years, 2015 and 2016, and then he got his opportunity with Baylor. I think Matt Rule's a good coach. I think there's a reason why he is well respected.
So Matt Rule checks in at number 7 in our Indianapolis Colts head coaching hot board. Let's take a look at some of the more likely candidates as we creep into some of the Eagles assistants. Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator for Philadelphia, did a great job a year ago, obviously captured a Super Bowl victory over the New England Patriots. Schwartz, by the way, has interviewed during the head coaching search earlier this year in the NFL too.
Yeah, I mean, again, we saw him. He was a head coach for the Lions, and I think he kind of gets a raw deal with the Lions. You see that record, 29-52, but he took over the Lions team that went that was 0-16 in 2008, and then he turned them to be at least a decent team. But again, guys, when we sit here and talk about Schwartz, for me, Schwartz is a guy who should be a coordinator, not so much of a head coach.
All right, so there is Jim Schwartz there at number 6. Let's take a look at number 5 now. Leslie Frazier, defensive coordinator for the Bills, has been coaching in the NFL since 1999, served as a Colts assistant in 2005 and 2006 before moving to Minnesota. and becoming the DC there, eventually becoming the head coach. What do we make of Leslie Frazier here? We haven't heard this name in a while, it seems.
I'm kind of glad we haven't heard it. I'm not the biggest Leslie Frazier fan. So I'm a believer when you have really good players, the coach looks really, he plays much better. I mean, I always say that Phil Jackson is a guy who, if you give me Michael Jordan in his prime, I'm going to win some rings. You give me Kobe in his prime, I'm going to get some rings. Frazier's only winning season is when Adrian Peterson decided to run for 2,000 yards. You give me Adrian Peterson in a season where he's just mowing down people, you're going to win some games.
All right, so there is Leslie Frazier checking in at number 5 in our Colts coaching hot board. Let's take a look at number 4 now. Dan Campbell, tight end coach for the New Orleans Saints, joined the Saints staff before the 2017 season. This name may sound familiar for many people out there because, yes, he filled in for the fired Joe Philbin back in 2015 as the interim head coach of the Miami Dolphins. So there's Dan Campbell there, Mitchell.
I like this move, but here's another guy who I think is more of a coordinator, and this would be a pretty hot, this one would surprise me. I hope Campbell doesn't hear this, though, because I don't know if you've ever seen this guy. This guy's ripped. Like, he's jacked. So, Campbell, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, man, but I think you're more of a coordinator.
So Dan Campbell is our number 4 option for the Colts. Let's get into the top 3 here. John DeFilippo, quarterbacks coach for the Eagles, did a great job in the development of Carson Wentz in 2017, and then picked up right where he left off with Nick Foles, and did a great job with Nick Foles as you saw him play well in Super Bowl 52. John DeFilippo, a big-time name. I thought he would have been a great fit for the Arizona Cardinals as a head coach. He deserves a head coaching position at some point. Maybe he gets it here.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be sought after now when we saw a guy like Carson Wentz just come onto the scene, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions before the ACL injury. But good coaches build their offense around their best players, and we saw DeFilippo, and maybe a guy who might be on our list again is going to be coming up, but they build their offense around their best players. Carson Wentz was amazing, and then they integrate the new offense around Nick Foles, and when you know it, they won a Super Bowl.
Small connection to the Colts, by the way, was a summer coaching intern in 1998. So just saying, folks. There's John DeFilippo at number 3. Let's take a look at number 2. We'll stay with the Philadelphia Eagles. Frank Reich, offensive coordinator there. He will interview with the Colts on Friday, according to Adam Schefter there, Mitchell. So things are already in place here for Frank.
Yeah, and I mean, despite losing Jason Peters this past year, they still had an amazing offense and an unbelievably efficient offense, and Reich deserves a lot of credit for that. We said with Carson Wentz coming in and out of this second year, did not have a sophomore slump whatsoever, and Reich is a big reason for that. An offense that did not have a lot of weapons, and then you see players just ultimately, like Alshon Jeffrey, coming in right away, bang, amazing. Zach Ertz finally took that next step, and then Nelson Aguilar came out of nowhere. Reich deserves a lot of credit for that.
So Frank Reich is our number 2 candidate to become the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. How about number 1? Dave Taub, special teams coach for the Chiefs. A name mentioned early in the head coaching search, as well has connections to GM Chris Ballard dating back to their time with the Chicago Bears. Mitchell, what do we make of Dave Taub here?
Well, he's respected as being one of the best special teams minds in the game. We saw him take a guy like who was not really well known, Tyreek Hill, and turn him into, you could argue, the best special teams player or the most feared special teams player since a guy maybe by the name of Devin Hester. And then when you just see him totally flip a team, special teams like the Chiefs, that's why he's on here, and he's very well respected.
Let's summarize our top 10 candidates to become the next head coach of the Colts. 10 through 6 here, folks. Bruce Arians, David Shaw, Jim Harbaugh, Matt Rule, and Jim Schwartz all seem fairly unlikely. Maybe Schwartz as a possibility here. 5 through 1, the more likely candidates: Leslie Frazier, Dan Campbell, John DeFilippo, Frank Reich, and Dave Taub, the special teams coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is NFL Daily here on Chat Sports Facebook Live, presented by the Game Time app. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. Chatsports.com/tickets is the website to download. Mitchell, you got a few examples for us for some really good prices.
Yeah, before I came on the show, I was looking at some prices, and I mean, again, when we saw Philadelphia, I mean, nothing really big has happened there. So I wanted to help out the Philadelphia fans, maybe, since nothing's really going on in Philly.
Right, sure.
But if you want to go watch the #1 college basketball team in the country, Villanova, for $1, go to the Game Time app. You got it there.
It's a beautiful app at that, so definitely check them out, chatsports.com/tickets. We will continue our way too early NFL power rankings here. We just wrapped up the Indianapolis Colts. Let's take a look at number 28 now. The Cincinnati Bengals, and 7-9 campaign, and really kind of came on nicely too. They spoiled my Baltimore Ravens playoff chances, Mitchell, in what was just awful fashion, but here we are with Cincinnati.
On to Cincinnati. Not only did they spoil your chances, but they also made one of the most legendary moments in Chat Sports history, and I will see you in the, you know exactly what I'm going to say, Cam. But this is a team who, sure, they spoiled the Lions' chances, they spoiled the Ravens' chances, but they also spoiled their own chances already in 2018 by bringing back Marvin Lewis. I don't know what they're going to do now with Joe Mixon. I don't know what they're going to do with their whole running game. Andy Dalton didn't play as bad as I think what a lot of people think. The guy threw for 25 touchdowns. This team has a lot of issues, both sides of the ball. Their defense is much, much better, I think, personally, than their offense, though.
Their offensive line really struggled last year in pass protection. Andy Dalton was running wild, and look, Russell Bodine in the center there, he's going to be a free agent, so they have a decision to make at that. Cincinnati checking in at number 28 in our way too early NFL power rankings. Number 27 here, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can Jameis Winston rebound? That is the big-time story. And can Dirk Cutter coach? That's the other thing.
I've never seen Jameis play basketball, Cam, so I don't know if he can rebound, but I'm starting to question whether or not he can play quarterback, because this is a guy who's really, really struggling. He turns the ball over way too much, 11 interceptions. And then when you have options like Mike Evans, and he only has 71 catches, 1,000 yards, and 5 touchdowns, how a guy as physically gifted as Mike Evans only has 5 touchdowns is almost as confusing as a guy like Julio Jones not getting any touchdowns. So a team that needs to figure out their identity. Doug Martin this past year averaged 2.9 yards per carry. They got to get him out of there. But can Dirk Cutter coach? I don't know, man. I question it. I was a big believer.
I can't believe they brought him back.
I was a big believer in this Buccaneers team. They're the only team in the South who didn't make the playoffs, but it's a tough division. I hope they rebound. I'm cheering for them.
I'll tell you this, they won't be the sexy wild card pick next offseason or, next training camp time when everybody is making their projections for the playoffs. They'll be flying under the radar this time, no doubt about it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers check in at number 27 in our NFL power rankings. Here on NFL Daily, presented by Game Time, let's take a look at number 26 here, the Chicago Bears. Mitchell Trubisky, his development, really important here. What do we make of the Bears here? Because they have some pieces on the defensive side that I think can get better. Obviously, they have some notable free agents. So they were Kyle Fuller and Prince Amukamara.
Yeah, this is a team, I think their defense is their strong point, and they have a solid running game with Tariq Cohen and then Jordan Howard as thunder and lightning, if you will. But Mitchell Trubisky this past year averaged only 183 passing yards per game, second worst in the NFL, but I don't know how much of that is on him. This was a team who had no wide receivers, no options for him to throw to. They need to invest in this year's draft, possibly at a guy like Calvin Ridley at their 8th overall pick from Alabama.
Oh, and by the way, they got a new head coach, Matt Nagy, so we'll see what he can do. He's a good offensive mind. So the Chicago Bears are there at number 26. Let's take a look at number 25 here, the Miami Dolphins. A lot of question marks here. Will they bring back Jay Cutler? How healthy will Ryan Tannehill be by the time OTAs comes around? All of this stuff. And you look at the salary cap situation for Miami too, not that great.
It's not pretty. And then when you see a guy who's a free agent like Jarvis Landry,
right,
who's you could regard as the best wide receiver available in this year's free agent class, but they still have a lot of questions. Is Kenyon Drake a workable back? Can he handle a heavy workload? Is Ryan Tannehill going to take a step? Is Devontae Parker going to take a step? A team that I think has a lot of talent on paper, but also a lot of question marks.
So the Miami Dolphins are at number 25, and certainly they do have a lot of question marks. That offensive line in particular needs to pass protect a lot better. All right, folks, let's summarize our NFL power rankings so far. 32 through 29, Browns, Giants, Jets, and Colts. 28 through 25, Bengals, Buccaneers, Bears, and then the Miami Dolphins are there at number 25. Ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing along here on NFL Daily, presented by Game Time. Let's check in with number 24 in our NFL power rankings, the Arizona Cardinals. And Mitchell, they're at 8-8 from the 2017 campaign. You probably think they should be higher, but here's the deal. Carson Palmer retired, and their only quarterback on the roster that's not a free agent is a practice squad guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't know the future of Larry Fitzgerald. He actually has not come out and said whether or not he's going to come back in 2018. But this team is built on the run, and with new head coach Steve Wilks, they're going to bring a lot of fire. Steve Wilks, when he coached for when he was the defensive coordinator at the Panthers, they blitzed 44% of the time. The league average.
He loves blitzing.
This past year, the league average was 29%, Cam. So I think this is a team who's going to come out, they're going to put their ears back, and they're going to blitz, but they're going to lean on a running back who they didn't have this past season, David Johnson. I mean, guys, we cannot forget how dominant David Johnson was. 1,293 rushing yards, 16 rushing touchdowns, and then, oh yeah, by the way, 80 receptions, 879 yards, 4 touchdowns. This is a running back who could possibly get 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving yards. A lot of questions, though, on the quarterback position, and I think that's what it's going to come down to.
I think Steve Wilks is going to have a lot of fun with that defense. It's the offense that has a lot of question marks, and the Cardinals are going to have to make some salary cap cuts, I would think, to the likes of Adrian Peterson, Mike Iupati, maybe Jared Valdir too. So the Cardinals, they need a quarterback. What's the best option out there? Case Keenum, Sam Bradford, Kirk Cousins, or should the Cardinals go to the draft? Here's the problem with the draft, Mitchell. They're picking at number 15 overall, so they are going to miss out on the Darnolds, the Rosens, and the Mayfields of the world. They're going to have to trade up or go to free agency and grab one of these guys. What do you think?
I think whatever guy they can get the cheapest is the guy that I would go. I don't know if I would trust Sam Bradford, a guy who's he's not been able to prove to me that he's been able to stay healthy. He's got bad knees. It scares me. And a guy like Kirk Cousins, he's going to be very, very expensive. So I guess I'm going to say Case Keenum.
All right, there you go. We'll slide along here into number 23 here on NFL Daily, presented by Game Time, and we've got the Washington Redskins. And the big-time story for them looks like bye-bye Kirk and hello Alex Smith.
Ugh, gross. They gave Alex Smith, who's 5 years older than Kirk Cousins, $72 million guaranteed. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I just don't get the move.
Supply and demand, I guess.
Yeah, supply and demand. But this is also a team who has no – their wide receivers right now in their depth chart, Josh Doxson, Jamison Crowder, Ryan Grant, Brian Quick, and then you look at their tight ends, Jordan Reed, who
never healthy.
Can never stay healthy, Vernon Davis, who's 36 years old, and then Samaje Perine, who I'm a fan of Perine coming out of Oklahoma, but he was very inconsistent this past year.
So the Washington Redskins are at number 23, and a lot to be sorted out there, especially at the wide receiver position. Mitchell, you're absolutely right. Jamison Crowder proved that he is not a top wide receiver. All right, let's go to number 22, ladies and gentlemen, the Denver Broncos. And for me, Mitchell, it's all about the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes. John Elway is going to be aggressive. He's probably going to make some salary cap cuts as well, maybe to a Chris Harris or a Aqib Talib. They can't afford all of their corners, it seems. So for Denver, I think they go to free agency for a quarterback and probably Kirk Cousins.
I mean, we saw Elway when he was out. They went out and they got Peyton Manning. They had a defense. They have a defense now. If they go out and get a quarterback, I think this is a team that puts himself in playoff contention. Last season, the Broncos, 19 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. They had a quarterback carousel. If they can get a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, they could compete for the AFC West. I think they're that talented, especially on defense. But I would love to see Baker Mayfield go there. I mean, it would be really interesting to me. He signed an agent from Denver.
Would be exciting.
Senior Bowl, the coaches from Broncos, they wanted him on his team. Oh, man, it would be interesting. But I think if they can get a quarterback, this team's legit.
Von Miller has publicly stated he wants Kirk Cousins to head to Mile High. We shall see. The Denver Broncos are at number 22 in our way too early NFL Power Rankings. Let's continue along here on NFL Daily, presented by Game Time. We've got the Buffalo Bills at number 21. And the big reason why is the uncertainty at the quarterback position. Will Tyrod Taylor get cut? Will he remain? It would create $10 million in cap savings if Taylor is indeed cut.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I mean, we're looking now at a guy, even like LaShawn McCoy, who's going to be 30 years old, who is the focal point of this offense, but seems to have a season-ending injury about once every 4 weeks. So I like Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback, but for some reason the Bills don't. But I don't know what they're going to do if they cut him, because we saw with their Peterman, he's definitely not the answer, throwing for 5 interceptions against the Chargers.
Well, I would think they would certainly have to go to free agency and perhaps make a run at Kirk Cousins. We know the Jets will be in the running there, the Browns as well. You could look at a Sam Bradford option and maybe, just maybe, make a trade for one Nick Foles. The Bills have a good amount of draft capital there.
Okay.
So perhaps they could make a move in that regard. Folks, should the Bills cut Tyrod Taylor? Give us a heart for yes, a like for no. You should keep Tyrod. I'll tell you what, Mitchell. I am already foreseeing the YouTube commenters right now saying there is no way in heck the Bills should keep Tyrod Taylor.
I don't understand why people from Buffalo don't like Tyrod. I mean,
YouTube commenters, come at Mitchell.
I don't get it. Sure, I mean, he was pretty solid last year. I mean, he had one of the best touchdown to interception ratios. He works well with that offense with LaShawn McCoy, the run-pass option. I don't get why people in Buffalo hate this guy as much as they do. I don't get it.
All right, folks, throw in those reactions, and we'll be tracking them here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. Let's get into the top 20 now in our NFL Power Rankings. The Baltimore Ravens check in at 20. They were a play away from making it to the postseason. It's amazing they actually went 9-7. It was a really down year for Joe Flacco. They're strapped for salary cap space right now. The wide receiver core is a major concern, and Ravens fans are starting to feel the brunt of Joe Flacco's contract and the salary cap space that goes along with it.
Oh, man,
you saw a Freudian slip right there.
That's all good. We know you're a Ravens fan there, homie. But this team has a lot of issues, and I think we need to start pointing the finger at Joe Flacco, but he did not have very good wide receivers this past year. A lot of injuries at the tight end position. The running back situation got really cloudy. I was a huge fan of Kenneth Dixon. He got into some offseason issues and wasn't able to play. So if they can maybe build a little bit around Flacco, maybe it'll make the offense better because the defense is legit. The defense is put together.
So the problem is the Ravens have need at wide receiver, but Joe Flacco's contract kind of doesn't let the Ravens be active in free agency and perhaps make a run at an Allen Robinson or Jarvis Landry. And I put this weigh in with you in mind, Mitchell.
I appreciate that.
Is Joe Flacco overpaid?
Yes. Easy.
Immensely or
Yes.
just somewhat?
Yes. Cam, in 2012, I made my Twitter the day that Joe Flacco signed his contract. My very first tweet is telling the Baltimore Ravens that they overpaid Joe Flacco. That's the truth.
And I'm starting to almost fall in line with your thinking now here in 2018. All right, the Baltimore Ravens are at number 20. Let's go into the teens now. And we'll go to number 19, the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel, that regime has begun. He is the new head coach. Matt LaFleur is the new offensive coordinator coming over from LA and the Rams. So a couple of good young coaches here in Nashville. Goodbye, Mike Mularkey. The big question here, can Derrick Henry become the lead back for the Tennessee Titans? Because I think it's time for DeMarco Murray to go.
Man, I hope. From watching just the entire season and then at the end of the stretch, the Tennessee Titans were so much better with Derrick Henry than we saw in the playoffs. Derrick Henry took over. Sure, Murray was injured, but Derrick Henry just a clear better running back. And I cannot even imagine facing that guy for 4 straight quarters, and then you're losing, and you have to tackle that guy in the fourth quarter after playing an entire game. No way. Marcus Mariota needs to step up. He needs to start playing a little bit better. And Corey Davis, the guy who they picked first round last year, 5th overall pick, he needs to play better. He was battling injuries, inconsistent play. This team, I think, has a lot of young talent that needs to start meshing together. I think there is a bright future, though, ahead for the Titans.
All things considered, not a bad season for them. 9-7. They kind of limped into the playoffs, but they won a playoff game against the Chiefs in the wild card round on the road. So impressive. All things, put into a box here. So Tennessee Titans at number 19. Let's check in with number 18. We'll remain in the AFC South here. The Houston Texans. And for me, Mitchell, it's all about Deshaun Watson. Look, the Texans are a playoff team. If Watson plays the entire season, he needs to come back healthy.
He's not the only one. Merciless needs to come back healthy. J.J. Watt needs to come back healthy. This team has a lot of talent, especially on that defensive line. I mean, you're telling me J.J. Watt, Clowney, Merciless, they're all going to rush the quarterback? Man, that's tough for offensive-minded people to be able to handle that. And then Deshaun Watson last year was on an absolute tear before he got injured, and then, unfortunately ended up tearing his ACL. But I think this Houston Texans team with Deshaun Watson, if he plays an entire season and J.J. Watt in that front can be healthy, we're too low on the Texans.
And, of course, of note, Mike Vrabel, the DC, now with the Titans, and Romeo Crennel is now the defensive coordinator. In a way, it could kind of be an upgrade. Crennel is really a great defensive mind. All right, so the Houston Texans are at number 18. Let's take a look at number 17, ladies and gentlemen, the Detroit Lions. They got a great secondary, Not a great front seven. They got a couple of free agents on that front line too. Ziggy Ansah most notably. New head coach in Matt Patricia. Mitchell, I might be in a minority when I say this. I think Patricia's going to struggle a little bit, at least to start.
Yeah, again, this isn't rocket science, even though he is a rocket scientist, but I don't know if Matthew Stafford can carry a team. I don't know if Matthew Stafford deserves the amount of money he's getting paid, and then you put a guy like Patricia who, I don't know, Cam, I'm not this, I don't want to say I've dealt with rocket scientists in the past, but I have a feeling he might not mesh well.
He might overanalyze.
Yeah, that's definitely truth, but they have a solid defense. This offense, they have a lot of question marks around the running backs. Matthew Stafford, I just don't see him being capable of being able to lead a team, ever. Sorry.
All right, so the Detroit Lions, well, they finished 2017 with a 9-7 record. They're at number 17 in our NFL Power Rankings here on NFL Daily, presented by Game Time. Let's summarize our rankings so far. So 32 through 29, Cleveland Browns, New York Giants, New York Jets, Indianapolis Colts. Then 28 through 25, Bengals, Buccaneers, Bears, and Dolphins. 24 through 21 we go, Cardinals, Redskins, Broncos, and Bills. 20 through 17, you've got the Ravens, then the Titans, the Texans, and the Detroit Lions. As I mentioned, this is NFL Daily presented by the Game Time app. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. There you see at the bottom of your screen, chatsports.com/tickets is the website to download. Mitchell, you've been tracking some of the ticket prices out there, and I see you have a little Maryland basketball price.
I do. Well, you're leaving me this week, and you're leaving me home alone. My roommate's, he's venturing off, going back to Maryland. So I was like, Cam, I wanted to hook you up, wanted to find some awesome tickets for you. Unfortunately, you're not there tonight, or you could go and watch a game for $3. But when you're there on February 10th, the ticket price is right now $26.
Not too bad.
I bet you they're going to get way, way lower.
Absolutely. So you wait. That's the whole deal with Game Time. You procrastinate, then the tickets get cheaper. So Game Time, sponsoring NFL Daily here today. Let's get into the top 16 in our way too early NFL Power Rankings, and checking in at number 16. And this team could be as high as number 1 by the season's end. I'm telling you. The San Francisco 49ers, a ton of cap space, a lot of opportunity to improve, some good draft capital as well. And oh, by the way, that guy named Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, you seem to be drinking the Kool-Aid.
A little bit.
A little bit of the Kool-Aid, which I don't blame you. Jimmy Garoppolo, he should excite all 49ers fans. He should excite all NFL fans. This is a guy he didn't lose last year, Cam. I mean, he was unbelievable. He averaged over 300 yards passing a game, and before he came onto the scene, this 49ers team had no hope, and now he's giving them reason to just have faith again. I mean, he might be the quarterback of the future. I argued with Harris Rubenstein about him being a top 10 quarterback. I said he wasn't. He said he was. I'm convinced he's a top 10 quarterback. He might even be better than top 10.
So the Niners have to address a few things. Wide receiver position, perhaps get a Jarvis Landry. They have the cap space to do it.
They have the most money.
That's correct, too, yes. And the interior of that offensive line, you got Fusco and Kilgore there at guard and center, respectively. Those are both going to be free agents, so we'll see what happens with the Niners. All right, folks, are you drinking the Niners Kool-Aid? Are the 49ers a playoff team in 2018? Give us a heart for no doubt, a laughing face for you're not buying in just yet. Mitchell, where are you at?
I'm just not there yet, Cam. I need to see it from a full game, full season. Now, coaches are going to have an entire offseason to be able to scheme for Garoppolo. And we see a lot of times the sophomore slump is a real thing. I understand he's not a sophomore technically, but when NFL teams have an entire offseason to scheme for you, that's when it gets a little bit more difficult. However, if he comes out the first month of the season, 49ers are balling out, I'll start drinking the Kool-Aid.
Well, Daniel chiming in. He's thinking Ziggy Ansah will sign with the 49ers, so we shall see. Ziggy Ansah, we mentioned him with the Lions, a free agent there. All right, folks, let's get to number 15 in our NFL Power Rankings here on NFL Daily, presented by Game Time. The LA Chargers, 9-7 campaign in 2017. Smack dab in the middle here. Great secondary, Mitchell. Really fantastic with Casey Hayward, Trevor Williams, and Desmond King there at the slot. And an unbelievable pass rushing duo, Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa, too. The problem here is they got to stop the slow starts.
Yeah, the slow starts are killing, man. When you start off 0-4, you put yourself in a horrible, horrible hole. But last last year they drafted Forrest Lamp, who I was super, super high on in the draft, and unfortunately he tore his ACL. I think getting Lamp back, they're going to be able to build that offensive line, which has been an issue for the Chargers, build that wall, and then be able to run effectively with a guy like Melvin Gordon, who I think is severely underrated. And he's already come out and said this offseason that he wants to catch Todd Gurley, because Todd Gurley and Melvin Gordon were drafted together, and he wants to come out and show people that he's the better running back. That's what he's said in this offseason.
And Melvin Ingram has not had the luxury of great run blocking either. So if he gets some good run blocking, watch out. He could really have a big-time season. So the Chargers are there at 15. Let's stay out west. The Oakland Raiders at number 14. Chucky is in town. Mitchell, you are the host of the Raiders Report. You know that Chucky has a pretty darn good staff there with Paul Gunther as DC, Greg Olsen as OC, and Tom Cable as the offensive line coach. What do we make of the Raiders? At 6-10 last year, obviously a big-time disappointment, but they could bounce back.
They could bounce back, and this is a team that has a lot of talent. Derek Carr, Marshawn Lynch he's a question mark. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. Michael Crabtree, another question mark. I would have argued at the beginning of the year last season, Cam, that Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper, best wide receiver duo in the league. Unfortunately, they just didn't come out and play very well. This is a team, though, they need to, I think, they need to start building from the defense. They need cornerback help desperately.
Yes.
They need to bring back Navarro Bowman, who's a free agent. If they can get back Bowman, who actually led the team in tackles, Cam, with 89 and only 10 games. Like, that's how dominant Navarro Bowman is to that defense. And then they need to help out Derek Carr, especially the wide receivers. I mean, anytime Jared Cook leads your team in receiving yards.
Is that good?
I just cannot
say
imagine
no.
that's very good. Let's get Derek Carr the help he needs offensively, build that offensive line again, make him comfortable, because he already came out and said that he wasn't fully healthy. It's because he took a beating.
Certainly have to address the linebacking core in the draft. Maybe they grab a Roquan Smith in that first round, picking at number 9 or 10. That will depend on a coin flip. They also cut David Amerson. That was the big story coming out of Oakland recently, cornerback there. Sean Smith could be coming as well as a potential salary cap cut for the Oakland Raiders. They're not in the greatest salary cap situation out there, so perhaps they free up some space for that. So, John Gruden is the head coach. So, will Gruden win a Super Bowl with the Raiders? Give us a heart for someday, yes he will, or a laughing face for straight up no. What do we think about the Raiders here, a team with, of course, Super Bowl aspirations with this coach?
Well, I almost feel like I have to say someday yes, because if anybody who watches my Raiders report is listening, they're going to shred me if I don't.
Absolutely.
But this is a quarterback-driven league. I'm a big believer in Derek Carr. They have him for the long term. John Gruden, I'm a huge believer in. I'm saying someday yes, Cam. He's got 10 years, so why not?
All righty. That's a really great point. Oakland Raiders checking in at number 14. The Raiders played this team here at number 13 this past season, the Dallas Cowboys. So here we go with the Cowboys finishing 2017 at 9-7. Some peaks and valleys for them. I think that's the best way to really put it. Some of the valleys, probably that Thanksgiving game against the Chargers, perhaps that end of the season, Week 17 game that was gross, but they still won, but it was just weird. And so what do we make of the Dallas Cowboys here? They're going to get a full season from Ezekiel Elliott, one would assume.
That's the big one right there. Ezekiel, this team is obviously much better with Elliott. However, they were only 6-4 this past year, but Ezekiel Elliott has played in 25 games, Cam. He has 25 career touchdowns, 22 rushing, 3 receiving. He's arguably the best running back in the NFL, arguably. I say that, but he is a complete running back, can catch it, he can run, but he is the focal point of that offense. He helps Dak Prescott be the game manager that Dak is, and then that helps that Cowboys defense, who has a vicious front, pin their ears back and really get after the quarterback.
You have to wonder if 2018 is the final stand for Jason Garrett, too.
Yeah.
We're getting there, aren't we?
I would argue his seat is the hottest seat in the NFL.
Wow. Okay. Dallas Cowboys are at number 13 in our way too early NFL power rankings. Let's take a look at number 12 here, the Green Bay Packers. And, of course, it was a lot of Brett Hundley in 2017 due to the injury to Aaron Rodgers. But another thing is this, the injury to the secondary, or the injuries, I should say. Quentin Rollins and Kevin King and many other players were banged up back on that back end. So what do we make of Green Bay here? finishing 2017 under 500.
So I feel like I'm the outcast here on Green Bay. I think Green Bay should be higher simply because if Aaron Rodgers plays in a full 16-game season, I'm sorry, he's the best quarterback in the NFL when he plays a full 16-game season. The Packers haven't really had a solid secondary the last few years, and yet they still made the playoffs because Aaron Rodgers has been that good. We see a guy who can throw for 40 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He has the all-time touchdown-to-interception ratio in the NFL. He's the only guy that over 4. So 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He is that dominant. He is that amazing. When he plays, they are a playoff caliber team. I think they should be higher than 12, but everyone disagrees with me.
Well, so we put them at 12 kind of as a kind of happy medium here with the Green Bay Packers. A lot of uncertainty with the Aaron Rodgers situation, kind of recovering in that regard. And also, they're kind of strapped for cash as well. They got to make some salary cap cuts. So the Green Bay Packers are at number 12. We'll continue along here on NFL Daily, presented by Game Time. Number 11, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Patrick Mahomes era has officially begun.
Here we go. Here we go. I love me some Patrick Mahomes. If you guys like arm talent, please look into this guy. Mahomes has it. He is unbelievable.
You like him a lot.
Oh, I do. But it's not only that. He can run. He's not a running quarterback, but he has the ability to run. He's super athletic, but he has arm strength and arm talent that you just simply can't coach. And he was able to play Week 17 against Denver, 284 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. But playing in Denver is not easy, and there was a lot of other antics going on in that game between Michael Crabtree and or not Michael Crabtree. It's a different game. Sorry, guys. But he has talent. Okay, so when you look at Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, they all had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. It was the only team in the NFL that had a tight end, a running back, and a wide receiver over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. There is talent there. I like Mahomes. But I still have question marks about Mahomes. We haven't seen it yet from a full season.
Well, of course, the sample size is certainly not there, but he has the toys to play with, if you will. You've got Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt. These guys are legit at their respective positions. And the Chiefs, coming off a 10-6 campaign, not too bad considering the injuries that they had to that secondary, most notably Eric Berry. He's coming back. Oh, and by the way, they got Kendall Fuller, too, the great slot corner. So a big addition there. So the Kansas City Chiefs could get even better from the 2017 season.
Yeah, it wouldn't totally surprise me. This is a team, though, with Mahomes. I'm interested to see Mahomes and Tyreek Hill mesh. So, again, Alex Smith this past year was the best quarterback at throwing the ball deep, which a lot of people don't realize that he had the highest quarterback ratio in throwing the ball over 15 yards. I want to see how Mahomes, who has the arm to really hit Tyreek Hill deep, I want to see how well they mesh. And this Chiefs team offensively is very interesting going forward.
All right, let's get inside the top 10, ladies and gentlemen. Checking in at number 10 in our NFL Power Rankings, we've got the Seattle Seahawks. Missed out on the playoffs. Offensive line is a big-time issue here. Huge. They have to make some salary cap cuts, but we have Seattle here mostly because there's less uncertainty than other teams behind them. But with that said, the Legion of Boom and all of this, could that era be coming to a close, Mitchell? That's the one thing I'm wondering about.
Yeah, it definitely could. Expect them to cut a guy like Jeremy Lane, who is having some off-field issues, plus did not play this past year. And heck, they tried to trade him this past year. But Cliff Averill, I wouldn't be totally surprised if they cut him. And even a guy like Richard Sherman, if they cut him, they would save over $12 million. And when you see guys with that big of a name, he's coming off of major injury. Sure, Richard Sherman has been one of the studs on that Legion of Boom, but I think it's time for him to go. Did you know, though, that Russell Wilson was traded today, Cam? Did you hear that?
Yeah, breaking news, Mitchell. Actually, you can report that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Russell Wilson was traded. So actually, he was traded from the Texas Rangers to the New York Yankees for compensation.
I saw that update. I had no idea what even that meant because it was like it was MLB story.
Yeah, well, I couldn't believe it either. It's more just a just-in-case kind of thing if he ever decides to come back to play baseball. I don't think that's happening. Russell Wilson is the heart and soul of the Seahawks team. He accounted for every single touchdown for the Seahawks besides one.
Unbelievable.
A J.D. McKissick rushing touchdown was the only touchdown that he didn't account for. That's how amazing Russell Wilson is. Give him some offensive weapons around him. Maybe they bring back Jimmy Graham, but that offensive line desperately needs to improve.
Seattle's at 10. Let's take a look at number 9 now. The Atlanta Falcons made the playoffs. They won a game against the LA Rams, went into Lincoln Financial and lost to the Eagles. The Falcons, not a great salary cap situation. The offense took a step back a little bit in 2017, losing Kyle Shanahan, their offensive coordinator, and it didn't work out too well.
Yeah, that hurt. Steve Sarkisian, man. I have yet to understand this. When you tell me Julio Jones in the red zone, 18 targets, 1 catch in the red zone. 1 catch. How does that happen with a guy like Julio Jones? That makes absolutely no sense to me. We saw this Falcons team really take a step back, a Super Bowl hangover. Matt Ryan went from MVP 38 touchdowns to only 20. When you compare that, Blake Bortles, 21 touchdowns. Deshaun Watson, who played in 7 games, threw for 19 touchdowns. This offense needs to get it going. I think they need to go back to relying a little bit more on Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman, who they're potentially the best running back duo in the league. They're definitely up there for discussion. But let's get Julio Jones the ball back. Let's get this offense churning again, because there's way too much talent on there for Matt Ryan to only throw 20 touchdowns. It makes me sick.
So the Falcons are there at number 9, rolling along here on NFL Daily, presented by Game Time. Let's summarize our power rankings. A lot of people in the comments section are asking about their teams. We got you covered. 32 through 29, Browns, Giants, Jets, and Colts. 28 through 25, we got the Bengals, Bucks, Bears, and then the Dolphins. 24 through 21, Cardinals, Redskins, Broncos, and the Buffalo Bills. 20 through 17 we go, Ravens, Titans, Texans, and Lions. 16 through 13, there are the 49ers, the Chargers at 15, the Raiders at 14, and the Dallas Cowboys at 13. And then 12 through 9 here, Packers, Chiefs, Seahawks, and Atlanta Falcons at number 9. This is NFL Daily, presented by the Game Time app. Head on to chatsports.com/tickets to get up to 60% off. All those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and a lot more. Check them out. Once again, chatsports.com/tickets. Let's keep it going here in NFL Daily. Checking in with number 8 in our power rankings, the Carolina Panthers. And of course, they lost Steve Wilks there, their former defensive coordinator, to the Arizona Cardinals. All things considered, though, not a bad year for 2017, 11-5. They weren't flashy in their wins. That's kind of how Carolina plays football, ground and pound type of game. The real question for me, Mitchell, wide receiving core. They need more players there.
Yeah, they have nobody really. I mean, sure, Greg Olsen, but he's getting much older. He's the tight end. And then you look at a guy like Devin Funchess, who I think is more of a glorified tight end. He actually stepped up. I will give him credit for that. But Christian McCaffrey this past year led the running backs in targets with 113. He had the 3rd most receptions among running backs with 80. But they need to get more around Cam Newton. Cam Newton led the NFL among quarterbacks in rushing yards, 754, 6 rushing touchdowns, which was tied for the most in the league among quarterbacks. Cam needs help. They need to be, on offense, I'll say, less vanilla. They are a very boring offense, and they have very flashy players like Christian McCaffrey and Cam Newton. Heck, even Curtis Samuel, I think, could be a better gadget player. They need to just liven it up a little bit. I mean, my Lord, so vanilla. Let's go to Ben & Jerry's to get some good flavors.
And that's what they are trying to do with this Christian McCaffrey character, of course, right? You know, introducing some new plays into the offense and things like that. But at the end of the day, you can run the football well, but you need good wide receivers on that play action down the field.
Well, that's the thing. They have no threat. They have absolutely no threat, and Cam Newton is a big-arm quarterback, but they don't have anybody that can stretch the field. You can dislike Ted Ginn Jr. all you want. Ted Ginn at least gave defenses – he put fear in the eyes of defenses because he was able to take off the top. They don't have that anymore. They don't have the threat. They can't use Cam Newton. They have a bunch of big-bodied receivers who try to run routes, and yeah, I guess Cam Newton knows a thing or two about routes, but man, let's get this together, Carolina. You guys have talent. Don't waste it.
A name to watch there at the bottom of your screen, Andrew Norwell, big-time free agent. The Panthers are going to do everything they can to keep him. We shall see. There are the Panthers at number 8. Let's take a look at number 7. This team was in the NFC Championship game, so why are they at number 7? Simple. Uncertainty at the quarterback position, Mitchell. All 3 of their quarterbacks are free agents.
Bridgewater, Bradford, Keenum, all free agents. And when you lose Pat Shermer as your offensive coordinator, that's a big hit. So who's playing quarterback, I'm not sure. But when Dalvin Cook, he's coming back, he had a pretty good season before he tore that ACL. 74 carries, 354 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's 4.8 yards per carry, which is a little bit better than Latavius Murray's 3.9, but Murray was more effective at the goal line with 8 touchdowns. They allowed the fewest points in the NFL this past season, Cam, and that defense is stellar. I would argue they are top 2 in the league, potentially number 1, especially at home. But when you have guys like Thielen, like Diggs and Rudolph, who's throwing to them? That's the major issue here. If we knew who the quarterback was, I think they'd be higher.
That's absolutely correct. And I think the Minnesota Vikings do this, Mitchell. I think they franchise tag Case Keenum.
Okay.
They bring back Teddy Bridgewater. Those two compete. Sam Bradford walks. Teddy Bridgewater ends up being your Week 1 2018 starter. And I think there's some friction there between Keenum and Teddy Bridgewater because of that.
I don't even know if Sam Bradford will be able to walk away at this point in his
That's
career.
a good point. Poor guy. All right, the Minnesota Vikings are at number 7. Let's take a look at number 6 in our NFL Power Rankings, presented by Game Time here in NFL Daily. The Rams of LA. What a season. Sean McVay, Coach of the Year.
He deserves it. I mean, we look at a team who was absolutely abysmal with a guy like Jeff Fisher, go figure, and then McVay steps in, young guy, new offense. Jared Goff comes to life. I mean, Jared Goff had an unbelievable season, throwing for 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Only Carson Wentz and Alex Smith had a better touchdown-interception ratio. That's how effective this offense was, unbelievably scoring points. And then Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley. You were saying it all year that you think Todd Gurley is the best running back in the NFL, potentially NFL MVP candidate.
Yep.
I'm on the MVP candidate. I think Todd Gurley should have won the MVP. 19 total touchdowns, over 2,000 total yards. Unbelievable season from Todd Gurley.
Those are some big-time free agents there for the Rams. They got to make a few decisions here. Sammy Watkins, Tremaine Johnson, LaMarcus Joyner. Joyner, I think, is a really big priority for them, or at least he should be. The Rams are at number 6 in our NFL Power Rankings. Let's get inside the top 5. Here we go. The Pittsburgh Steelers are at number 5. And what I'm tracking with them, Mitchell, Le'Veon Bell, the situation there. Will he sit out 2018 if he gets the franchise tag? He'd be insane if he were to, because he'd get paid a lot.
He would. He wants, though, to, I guess, reinvent how running backs get paid in this NFL. And
sure,
he does way more than just what normal running backs do. He is such a focal point of this offense. Again, 321 carries, and he had 85 receptions. He was the focal point of this Steelers offense. And then you look into consideration how amazing Antonio Brown was, but I would argue Le'Veon Bell is more important to that offense than Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, though, 5 straight seasons, Cam, over 100 catches, 1,250 yards, 8 touchdowns. 5 straight years for Antonio Brown. Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, best 3 Bs in the league.
Yeah, they got to kind of figure out that salary cap situation, too. There you see that number. It ain't good. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have some work to do, but they are number 5 in our NFL Power Rankings. Let's check in with number 4 now. This team beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, went on to the AFC Championship, and nearly took down Goliath, the New England Patriots, in Foxborough with Blake Bortles at quarterback. Wow.
I think they should have, too. I think they should have won that game. I think if they would have kept just playing the way they were the first 3 quarters, they would end up winning instead of getting too safe, and then Tom Brady just came out and did Tom Brady things. But this is, in my opinion, the best defense in the NFL. They allowed 16.8 points this past season, Cam, second best, but then the 21 interceptions, second most. The 5 defensive touchdowns. This team made plays on defense.
They sacked you a lot.
Saxonville, hashtag
there
Saxonville. But then they leaned on their running game of Leonard Fournette, who came out, was unbelievable, over 1,000 yards in his rookie year. Just a tough physical team, and they know it, and they're not afraid to talk trash, and I love that.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, well, they sometimes talk too much trash because Jalen Ramsey kind of predicted a Super Bowl victory, and that kind of didn't happen. But Jacksonville on a very good upward trend with that defense, with that run game, and, of course, a couple of good wide receivers at that. Allen Robinson, though, notable free agent. He might get that franchise tag.
Yeah, he might, and I hope they bring him back because I am a huge fan of Allen Robinson. Was when he was coming out of Penn State, big physical guy. He's had a few amazing years. I mean, let's not forget 2 years ago he was tied for the most receiving touchdowns, or 3 years ago, most receiving touchdowns in the league with 14. So, a really talented receiver.
All right, so let's go to the top 3 now. The New Orleans Saints are at number 3 here, ladies and gentlemen. A couple of rookies of the year, Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore, on the offensive and defensive side, respectively.
But it's not just that. This team still revolves around Drew Brees. Drew Brees, sure, only 23 touchdowns, and was the first time since 2003, or the last time he had lower amount of touchdowns than 23 was 2003, but he set the NFL completion percentage record with 72% this past season. Unbelievable year from Drew Brees. Defenses still hold back because they're afraid of Brees. But, yeah, when you have a guy like Alvin Kamara, over 1,500 yards from scrimmage, And that also leans on with a guy like Mark Ingram, who was unbelievable this year, probably his best year. Just unbelievable season from Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, that Saints offense.
And Drew Brees, of course, a free agent, Mitchell.
Yeah, he's come back.
Yeah, he'll be back. That'll be fine. That'll be fine. Drew Brees, New Orleans Saints, they're going to go through their negotiations, and Brees will likely sign maybe a 1-year, probably a 2-year deal for the New Orleans Saints there. Great defense this year, great run game. They're going to carry that into next season, we believe, so we have them at number 3. Let's go to number 2 in our way too early NFL Power Rankings. On NFL Daily, presented by Game Time, we've got the New England Patriots, the team that went to Super Bowl 52 and lost. There's the salary cap space of $19 million for New England. Big-time need for them. Inside linebacker, tracking Avery Williamson, who's going to be a free agent for the Tennessee Titans. I think he'd be a great fit for New England. But let's just talk about, from a macro perspective here, the Belichick-Brady-Kraft regime here. Are we getting towards the end?
Well, we're definitely getting towards the end. I mean, they've been doing it now for, what, 20 years, so I would hope.
Let me rephrase that. Is the dominance coming to an end?
Well, they still went to the Super Bowl. I mean, they still went to the Super Bowl, and Tom Brady led the NFL in passing yards with 4,577, and they're going to get back Julian Edelman, who was desperately missed in the Super Bowl game. I don't think it's over. As long as Tom Brady's out there on the field, he is such a competitor. Bill Belichick. You could argue that these guys should be one even though they lost. I mean, come on.
And Josh McDaniels remaining. That's pretty good news too, right? That's
yeah, it's
the
got to
offensive
be.
coordinator.
It definitely is going to help him. We've seen Brady come out and already say that he is really excited that McDaniels decided to stay.
You know, it's funny. One of my buddies texted me, and he's like, you know what happened? Tom probably put Josh McDaniels and Julian Edelman in a group chat and said, fellas, we ain't done. We're going to win another one. And perhaps maybe that's what happened. Who knows? Some convincing went on, and Josh McDaniels is remaining as the offensive coordinator for the Patriots. Saw some comments in the section. Sean said the Eagles will not be number 1. Well, Sean, I have some unfortunate news for you. The number 1 team in our way too early NFL Power Rankings is indeed the Philadelphia Eagles 13-3 campaign, but that Super Bowl victory, obviously huge.
Fly, Eagles, fly. And for anybody who doesn't think that they should be number 1, this team just won the Super Bowl, and now they're going to get back, hopefully, if he's 100% healthy, Carson Wentz, who was the MVP, in my opinion, before he went down. 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in only 13 games. Carson Wentz and this entire Eagles team they were just incredible. And then when they brought in a guy like Jay Ajayi, who averaged 5.8 yards per carry, Cam, it just opened up things for guys like Zach Ertz, Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey. They all had, those 3 wide receivers and tight end all had over 8 receiving touchdowns this past year. So dynamic. I mean, I don't know how you could defend them. And then it was the defense. The defense was incredible.
The defense was fantastic. That front line is unbelievable. Now, Carson Wentz is going to be coming back for the Philadelphia Eagles, we would assume.
Yep.
So with that, you could get a lot if you were to trade Nick Foles, especially from a lot of teams out there desperate for a quarterback, i.e. the Jets, the Bills, etc. Should the Eagles trade Foles?
If the price is right, sure, why not? I looked up this stat, Cam, and I think this is pretty amazing. In Nick Foles' career, he has 54 touchdowns, 19 interceptions on teams not coached by Jeff Fisher. That's a touchdown-to-interception ratio of 2.84, 4th best in NFL history. Only guys like Rodgers, Brady, and Russell Wilson have a better touchdown-interception ratio. Maybe Nick Foles is legit. Maybe a guy like Jeff Fisher, who is not a good coach, in my opinion. We've seen him ruin other quarterbacks. Maybe Nick Foles is legit.
All right. Stay tuned on Nick Foles. Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. Our first batch of NFL Power Rankings this offseason. Let's summarize the full list. 32 through 29 we go. Browns, Giants, Jets, and Colts. The next batch here, we got the Bengals, then the Buccaneers, the Bears, and the Dolphins. 24 through 21. Cardinals, Redskins, Broncos, and Bills. 20 through 17, Ravens, Titans, Texans, and Lions. 16 through 13, we got the 49ers, Chargers, Raiders, and Cowboys. 12 through 9, Packers, Chiefs, Seahawks, and Falcons. 8 through 5, Panthers, Vikings, Rams, Steelers, and finally the top 4, the Jaguars, Saints, Patriots, and Philadelphia Eagles. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, our way too early NFL Power Rankings here on NFL Daily presented by Game Time. We are signing off here on the program. Be sure to follow him, Mitchell Renz, at MitchellRenz365. Follow me on Twitter at MrRogers99. We appreciate the comments, the support. Keep it right here on Chat Sports throughout the offseason because we've got you covered. We're saying goodbye. Take care, everybody.